A position that is considered to be among the most powerful in the whole British royal family has just been bestowed to Princess Anne. Furthermore, to tell you the truth, nobody is really discussing what this actually means for the monarchy at this very moment. You know, on the surface it seems like some kind of ceremonial event. But when you actually grasp what's going on here, the consequences are incredibly tremendous. And the fact that it's come at Camilla's expense is making this whole scenario a lot more intriguing than anyone anticipated it would be. The problem is as follows: the red box. You know, the famous box that contains all of the confidential intelligence briefings and state documents that only the monarch is in a position to actually open. Yeah, that somehow wound up in Anne's hands instead of staying with Camilla. When it comes to the language of the British monarchy, whomever is in possession of the keys to that red box is essentially in possession of real authority. This is something you should keep in mind before you think that this is merely some symbolic move. When we talk about this, we are not talking about ceremonial matters. Rather, we are talking about who is allowed to view confidential intelligence, who has the last word on legislation, and who actually runs the show when things become complicated. Hi viewers, do you respect King Charles for trusting Princess Anne with the true power of the red box instead of Camilla, yes or no? Put yes in the comments if you believe Anne is the only one fit to run the show. Subscribe, now hit the like button, and share this video with someone who stands with Princess Anne taking charge. The actual source of constitutional authority is something that Anne suddenly possesses, whereas Camilla just does not have it as of now. It is telling people a lot about how King Charles is thinking about his own reign and who he genuinely trusts when things become serious, that he took this decision. And it is telling people many things. Because here's the problem with having a queen consort. Well, Camilla is married to the king. She is always at his side at events, and she is technically one of his closest daily companions. But when it comes to the actual machinery of running the kingdom, she was utterly shut out with no input whatsoever. Furthermore, this was not a random occurrence or a peculiar oversight. Rather, it was a choice that was brought about on purpose. Therefore, you must first have an understanding of the context. At this very moment, King Charles is coping with his own health issues, which is plainly putting pressure on the entire institution. In addition to attempting to oversee all of the day-to-day operations of governance, it is impossible to have a king who is always dealing with medical treatments. Things are going to have to give. However, the question that arises is who will step in to fill that void? And this is where things start to become extremely intriguing, since taking everything into consideration, the most apparent choice would be Prince William. Because he is the heir, he will one day become king. Given the circumstances, it is reasonable to assume that he will be the one to handle administrative obligations, while Charles is recuperating right. But William is unable to accomplish it. And to tell you the truth, when you consider the circumstances of his life at the moment, it is not at all surprising. Why? Recovery is something that Catherine is going through, while she is struggling with her own major health problem. William is a father to 3 young children who require him to be present and get involved in their lives. From an emotional and a practical standpoint, he is being tugged in every direction the entire time. And on top of all that, he is already carrying the psychological weight of knowing that he is going to be king someday. And if you were to force him to also absorb every single day of really administering the monarchy while handling all of that, it would just break him. This is an excessive amount of work for a single individual, particularly when that individual also has young children and a wife who is recovering from a major illness. Charles gazed at his sister rather than the person who appeared to be the heir apparent. And here is where the master stroke comes in, since Anne is truly perfect for this job in ways that William could never be, at least not right now. This is the moment when the master stroke comes into play. To begin, she is only 2 years younger than Charles, which means that she has lived through the exact same historical periods, is familiar with all of the same political figures, and is aware of the precedents because she was really present when they were set. Due to the fact that she was present at key historical events, she does not require someone to explain to her why certain things are significant. That's the kind of wisdom that can't be taught or faked in a hurry. In addition, it is of tremendous value when working with a government that is experiencing a crisis period. However, the most significant issue is something that, to tell you the truth, the majority of people wouldn't even consider. There is not the slightest bit of dynastic ambition in Anne. When it comes to royal politics, that may seem like an odd thing to commend someone for. But in reality, it is the most important thing. You see, there was this whole system of male preference primogeniture that existed when Anne and Charles were children. This basically meant that even though she was born second, and Charles was born later, eventually he moved ahead of her in the line of succession, simply because he is male. This was the case even though she was born second. Consequently, Anne was moved further and further down the line each time a brother was born. Obviously, that is not only unfair, but also out of date. But here is what makes it interesting. The fact that she has absolutely no way to ascend to the throne and has no interest in doing so anyway, makes her the ideal candidate to hold power at this moment in time. Give some thought to the political implications of that. When Anne enters into a room and opens the red box, or delivers a message from the monarch to the prime minister, nobody realizes she's doing it to seize greater authority for herself. There is no rival group that is using her to undermine Charles, and there is no faction that is supporting her. Everybody is aware of the fact that she is merely the messenger, due to the fact that she has absolutely nothing to gain personally by manipulating the system. She can be entirely trusted. Since she is unable to become queen, even if she makes an effort, there is no reason for her to manipulate anything in order to gain an advantage. The government trusts her, the public trusts her, and most importantly, Charles trusts her entirely. And honestly, that trust didn't just come out of nowhere. This wasn't Charles just randomly choosing that his sister should take on this task. Queen Elizabeth spent decades basically grooming Anne for exactly this role, even if nobody publicly called it that at the time. During the latter half of the 20th century, if the British Commonwealth was confronted with a genuine crisis or true political instability, Elizabeth would send Anne in as her representative. This was not for the purpose of receiving the entertaining ceremonial tours that other royals were given. Anne was assigned to the regions where things were tense and sensitive. Negotiating was genuinely needed. Elizabeth trusted her daughter with real authority and the ability to make meaningful decisions on behalf of the crown when the queen couldn't physically be there. In essence, there was a training program that lasted for several decades and taught me how to manage statecraft at the highest level. Anne wasn't just turning up and waving at folks. She was conducting the actual work of diplomacy and representation under the most stressful circumstances. In other words, by the time Elizabeth was nearing the end of her life and contemplating the future of Charles's reign, she had already established all of this foundational work, and she had already transformed Anne into the ideal candidate to take over whenever the monarchy needs someone who is capable of actually managing things. And here's the thing. Right before she passed away, Elizabeth made this incredibly astute constitutional move that in essence put everything in its proper place. In late 2022, when the Queen was approaching the end of her life and thinking about what Charles's rule would actually look like, she maneuvered this modification to the Regency Acts through Parliament. In addition to Anne and Edward, she included them on the list of working Counsellors of State for the duration of their lives. Now, this sounds like a technical legal thing, but it was actually amazing palace diplomacy because it solved a significant problem that nobody was really talking about publicly. The issue was that the traditional list of those who could step in and exercise the monarch's powers was effectively compromised. Harry had effectively distanced himself from everything by relocating to California and pursuing his entire line of work. Furthermore, as a result of his own troubles, Andrew had become entirely worthless in political circles. So you had this situation in which, in the event that something happened to Charles, and he was unable to govern, the people who were technically available to step in were practically nobody, that he genuinely wanted to be in his position of authority. Elizabeth came up with a solution to this problem by permanently adding Anne and Edward to the list. Legally, it was unquestionable. Politically, it was impossible to dispute with, and it ultimately pushed Harry and Andrew to the background in a manner that was respectable and could not be challenged. As a result, Elizabeth was essentially saying, "All right, when my son becomes king, and he goes through what kings go through, which includes health problems, pressure, and exhaustion, Anne is going to be the person he can turn to. The safety net is going to be provided by her. Furthermore, because I am doing this through Parliament and making it official, there is no place for anyone to criticize it or attempt to undermine it throughout the subsequent time period." However, prior to any of that happening, Anne had already been amassing a number of titles and accolades that in essence indicated to anyone who paid attention that she was ascending to a higher level of significance within the family lineage. In 1987, Elizabeth bestowed upon her the title of Princess Royal, which is an ancient distinction that may only be held by a single individual at any given time, and is customarily bestowed upon the eldest daughter of the monarch, with whom the monarch is now in power. The gift that you offer to a member of your family is not merely a pleasant gesture. There is an underlying assumption that you will devote your entire life to serving the crown, regardless of the political crisis that the country is going through at the time. This expectation comes with the job. Simply put, it is a formal marking that states that this particular individual is of the utmost significance to the way in which our dynasty operates. Then in 1996, Anne got invested as a Knight of the Thistle, which is Scotland's highest order of chivalry. The fact that it wasn't just some random ceremonial crap is the reason why this is genuinely relevant. Anne had spent years genuinely doing serious work in Scotland, managing complex connections and philanthropic stuff in the Commonwealth, and truly becoming involved in the actual welfare of communities there, rather than just turning up for photo shoots. She had spent these years in Scotland. As a matter of fact, the nation was essentially saying, "Okay, we see you. We recognize that you'd understand this country on a deeper level than just ceremonial appearances." This was the significance of the investment as a knight. After then, in the year 2023, while Charles was being crowned king, he decided to do something that was quite fascinating. It is a historic role that dates back centuries and is traditionally given to someone the monarch trusts with their personal security and safety. He chose Anne to be his gold stick in waiting, which is a role that has been passed down from generation to generation. So there's Anne in full military gear riding on horseback, straight behind Charles's gold stake coach through the streets of London for his coronation. This is not merely a reenactment of a long-standing custom. The act of Charles publicly putting his trust on record in front of the entire nation makes this statement. He is demonstrating to everyone that Anne is the one who is protecting him and the dynasty. He is physically showing everyone that Anne has his back. Not only is it extremely meaningful, but it was also a signal that no one could possibly miss. One of the things that has been fascinating to observe is how Anne's relationship with her husband, Timothy Lawrence, has also improved right along with her. In the middle of the 1980s, while Timothy was still a young Navy officer, he was selected to serve as an equerry to Queen Elizabeth. This was the beginning of his time in the royal household. He wasn't famous or pushing for attention. While he was there, he was working within the machinery that kept the family functioning, and he was seeing what it actually needed to manage all of the pressure that Anne was bearing. Elizabeth also observed that Timothy helped Anne without ever requiring the spotlight, or seeking praise, and how he simply quietly dedicated himself to helping her through an extremely rigorous schedule. This was something that Elizabeth recognized. He was given the title of Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order by Elizabeth in 2011. This honor is essentially the Queen's way of expressing her gratitude to someone who has been of great assistance to her and who has been close to her. Charles, however, went one step further. Recently, he upgraded Timothy to Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order, which is basically the highest position in that entire system. Timothy is the recipient of this personal present from Charles, which is entirely unrelated to any actions taken by the government. I see what you've done. I recognize what you mean to Anne, and I'm putting you in this exclusive circle of people who are closest to the throne. This is a direct statement from the king himself saying, I see what you've done. This is a remarkable public statement that demonstrates how important Timothy has become to the functioning of the monarchy in its actual capacity. Now, this is where things start to get interesting, because there is actually this whole historical layer that lies beneath all of this, which makes the conflict with Camilla even more sharp. Prior to Camilla's marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles, and long before she ever became Queen Consort, she was actually in a serious relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles during the time that he was with Anne. This occurred in the early 1970s. These true connections between Anne and Andrew were founded on the fact that they shared interests. Horses were their passion. Both of them had a strong interest in equestrian sports and equipment. In all honesty, they had a strong connection with one another, but the relationship did not work out due to religious issues. Andrew was a devout Catholic, and the Constitution of the time did not permit marriages of that nature. The relationship came to an end, but Anne and Andrew continued to maintain a close friendship even after Andrew married Camilla. After that, Anne tied the knot with Mark Phillips, a marriage that ultimately did not succeed. And at the end, she found herself in the company of Timothy, who had been there quietly supporting her throughout the entire process. Anne was able to actually function and accomplish the incredible amount of work that she does because of the stable and grounded partnership that they had developed through their relationship. In a given year, she attends more than 450 engagements, which is more than virtually any other royal who is currently employed. And Timothy just supports that without needing anything from it. As a result, when you consider what is taking place right now with Camilla being completely excluded from the red box and all of the actual power while Anne is ascending, there is this whole complicated history that lies beneath it. Camilla is the wife of the King of England. Despite the fact that she is the Queen Consort, she is not allowed to participate in the real processes that govern the country. While this is going on, Anne, who does not have a crown, but does have decades of actual work, and a husband who has been quietly supporting her the entire time, is being positioned as the true center of power within the institution. The majority of people in the United Kingdom have already decided what they think about all of this, and the numbers support their decision. When you look at the current opinion polls, Anne regularly places at the very top of royal popularity, right with Catherine and the memory of Elizabeth. People perceive her as the most diligent member of the family, the person who actually shows up and performs the job without seeking constant affirmation or media attention. And they're not viewing her ascension to this region-adjacent status as some political play or power grab. They perceive it as justice. Honestly, that's something that should have happened already, because she's earned it via true effort and genuine service. What really crystallized this public sentiment was this moment in the BBC documentary about Charles's coronation year. The documentary provided people this really close glimpse at what was happening inside the monarchy during what was basically its most vulnerable period. And Anne did something in that film that you rarely see royals do. She was simply being truthful about something that is true. She talked about her mother's final days at Balmoral, and she stated that Elizabeth had actually been anxious about dying there because of the logistical headache it would create for the government and the family. And Anne, being Anne, just told her mother to forget about that and spend her final days where she wanted to be, because she deserved that peace. But this is the bit that really struck a chord with folks. Anne talked about watching the imperial state crown being lifted off Elizabeth's coffin during the funeral, and she described this profound sense of relief she felt, not because she didn't love her mother or wasn't grieving, but because she understood that her mother's burden had finally ended. That decades-long weight of duty that Elizabeth carried was finally over. It was possible for Anne to realize that her mother had, in essence, given up her entire life for the institution. And there was a sense of gentleness in the realization that the strain had finally been lifted. That moment, that unfiltered honesty from Anne about death and duty and what it actually costs to serve, was the catalyst that caused the entire nation to view her in a different light. It grounded everything in genuine human emotion rather than in the pretense of being beautiful. And the significance of that documentary moment lies in the fact that it demonstrated to people why Anne is the ideal candidate for this role. She's not someone who's going to pretend everything is fine when it isn't. She's not going to hide behind ceremony or formality. She is aware that the institution makes it possible for it to continue existing by being truthful about the true costs and the individuals who are actually carrying out the task. If Princess Anne is the royal you trust the most because of her unfiltered honesty and decades of genuine service, then prove it. Put Anne in the comments. Share this story with someone who believes Princess Anne is the true backbone holding the monarchy together during this crisis. You can see how this is played out with the younger generation of royals too, particularly William and Catherine. Both of them have made it quite apparent that they respect Anne greatly and that they truly want her to have this enhanced role. William especially has been outspoken about regarding Anne as a necessary shield for the family, someone whose integrity and work ethic is so beyond doubt that it protects everyone around her from relentless public scrutiny. Due to the fact that both he and Catherine have purposefully given her the spotlight during significant occasions, it is clear to everyone who is watching that they do not consider her to be a threat or a competitor. They believe that she is the one who is actually carrying out the task and that she is deserving of appreciation for it. And William clearly understands that Anne's elevated position actually helps him right now. It takes some of the pressure off him at a moment when he's dealing with Catherine's recovery and trying to be present for his kids. He doesn't have to attempt to be everywhere doing everything. Anne is managing the hard administrative work, which leaves him space to be a father and a husband, and eventually a future king. But not all three at the same time right now. It's actually a fairly sophisticated power distribution, and William gets it. The thing that's become almost impossible to ignore, though, is what this elevation of Anne means for Camilla's position. Therefore, despite the fact that Camilla is able to sit next to Charles at official events and holds the title of Queen Consort, she is fundamentally excluded from actual power. She is not allowed to inspect the red box. She is not permitted to receive confidential briefings. She is not permitted to examine state documents, and she is not permitted to sign anything into law. She's just a ceremonial presence, while the actual machinery of administration flows around her into Anne's hands. Additionally, that is not a mistake or a lapse of judgment. This is a statement that Charles has made on purpose about the things that are important to him and the people that he put his faith in. There's also this lingering shadow of Diana that Camilla has spent her entire career in the royal family, attempting to navigate. The British public never really forgave her for the role people perceived her playing in Charles and Diana's marriage. And even though decades have passed, and Diana's been gone for years, there's still this weight to it. So now when Camilla's watching Anne get recognized by the public and promoted by Charles, while she's sidelined from genuine authority, it's got to be this heartbreaking reality about her actual place inside the institution. She's married to the king, yet she's not trusted with the things that count. Viewers, if you agree that it is poetic justice for Camilla to be sidelined from all real administrative power, while Princess Anne steps up, put yes in the comments. Like this video, share it, and subscribe right now. Anyone who celebrates this historic shift in the monarchy but leaves without subscribing is failing to give Princess Anne the public backing her decades of silent sacrifice deserve. Let's show the palace that true royalty means duty. Hit that subscribe button right now to show your unwavering support. The fact that the monarchy has undergone a significant transformation in its functioning is one of the most fascinating aspects of the current state of affairs. The traditional palace method was to create this image that everything was perfect, that the royals were somehow beyond the challenges that everyday people cope with. However, Charles and Catherine have effectively abandoned that strategy. They have thrown it out the window. The previous monarchs would never have been as forthcoming as Charles has been in terms of his health situation and treatment. He has been open and honest about both. Catherine's been honest about her personal healing path. In addition, rather than attempting to conceal or downplay the events that are taking place, the organization is essentially stating, okay, this is real life, these are real challenges, and here is how we are handling them. And in that environment, the decision to put Anne as this primary administrative figure is actually the monarchy being wise about its own survival. Charles is expressing his belief that it is necessary for me to share this burden with someone in whom I have complete faith, and that entity is my sister. He is not acting as if he is capable of doing everything by himself. He does not pretend that the organization is capable of operating at full capacity without any intervention from outside sources. When it comes to the requirements that the circumstance actually calls for, he is being honest and practical. People have found that the picture of Anne standing at the center of all of this, ready to open the red box sign legislation and steer the state through whatever is coming next, has become a source of genuine reassurance for them. Regardless of the other aspects of the monarchy that are undergoing change or uncertainty at the moment, Anne is a well-established figure. The work is going to be done by her, and she is going to show up too. Rather than making decisions based on what is best for her personally, she is going to make decisions based on what is genuinely best for the institution and the country. She is not going to seek personal glory from it. This is quite uncommon, and they are aware of it. Because of this, the public's reaction has been so overwhelmingly positive, and this entire transformation of her role, despite the fact that it may appear to be inconsequential from the outside, actually represents something really significant about how the monarchy is attempting to evolve and maintain its relevance and functionality in an era in which the traditional methods are no longer effective.